What is up, everyone? Welcome back to my channel, and if you are new, welcome. My name is Meg, and today I'm going to show you how to get this rusty fall grungy glam. I am obsessed with heavy, smoky, grungy eyes, and every single time I see any video or even see any picture of Jamie Genevieve, because I feel like she is the queen of grungy, smoky, sultry makeup. She just inspires me so much. I was like, I wish I could get my makeup to look like her. But yeah, I think I was watching her favorite fall videos or something like that, and she just had this really nice smoky look. This isn't the exact look, so I want to preference that. It was it just inspired me to do a really smoky glam eye. So this is the makeup she was wearing in her video. So it's a little bit of a gold on the crease, and it kind of looks like she has a little bit of a rusty color in the outer corner. So that's, you know, what I was mimicking and what I was trying to go for today's look. Obviously hers is a lot more dramatic and a lot more smoky, so feel free to build it up if you want it to look more like that, but this is what I came up with. I am going in depth with the instruction today to show you step by step. I feel like you can grab similar shadows in your collection. Don't feel bad if you don't have the exact colors that I'm using. It is quite all right. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this video. If you would like to see how I got my face makeup, I'm doing a Robert Welsh video, so be sure to subscribe because that one will be coming soon. And I did completely different techniques with my base makeup in that video. It's super fun to do. So anyways, without further ado, be sure to subscribe before we get started today, and let's roll into the tutorial. All right, so to get this look started off, I'm like getting back into cutting my brows. I have been letting my brows do their own thing during this year, and I kind of just plucked a few hairs that were like completely disconnected from my brows. I still don't have a lot of brows though. So I cleaned them up, aka cut them with some concealer the other day, and I really liked it and missed how it looked. I know it can be like a little bit much, but I was digging it, so I'm doing it again today just to go over with you guys. This is just an e.l.f. eyeliner brush, so it's a synthetic, really thin, flat brush, and you just need the smallest amount of product. So I'm just gonna scrape what is just on this wand, because that will be enough. This just helps define the brows a little bit more and clean them up, like I said. Like if you like fill them in really messy or something like that, you can just clean them up with some, if you have like a colored eye primer or a little bit of concealer. This can also help define the shape of them a little bit more. So I'm just lightly dragging whatever is left down towards my crease. Okay, so now that we have the brows cut, see, I feel like this one always arches up more. Whatever, I don't care that much. I'm gonna use concealer today for a primer, and I just wanna say, if you have oily eyelids, don't use concealer for a primer, because your eyelids are naturally oily, and the oil is gonna break it down throughout the day. I'm naturally very dry, so I don't have to worry about my oils busting through so much. So I'm just gonna blend this out, and then I'm gonna set it with the lightest bit of powder. I just like having like a nice clean base to work with. But if I'm doing brighter colors, or I really want the shadows to like stick, and like I'm specifically packing them on in a certain way, that's when I'll go in with a super tacky primer. But for more neutral shadows, I just prefer doing concealer and just the lightest dusting of powder, as you saw. Because again, my eyelids, like, I don't get super oily, and I'm not wearing my makeup for like 10 hours. So I'm fine with using the concealer and powder. Just know that might be a little possibility for you. Okay, so now we can get started with our eyeshadow, and I'm using this palette because I feel like there's a good chance that you have very similar shades in your collection. You don't have to use this exact palette. But before I jump ahead and get too ahead of myself, I'm just gonna take some white eyeliner. This is just the Milk Jumbo Pencil in Milk, and I'm just gonna pop that in my waterline. It helps open up my eyes, make me look more awake, and I like having an open-eyed look. There are some moments where I want to have a more grungy look, and that's when I'll go in with a dark eyeliner. So whatever your preference is, do that. So this is a KKW in Mario palette. I really like this palette a lot. It's in like my top 3 neutral eyeshadow palettes that I recommend. So if you have the Friendcation by Dose of Colors, that's really similar colors. The Jaclyn Hill, the first Jaclyn Hill palette that she released with Morphe, you'll be able to find similar colors. I feel like a lot of palettes have these colors, right? And here I am with 3 of them in my collection. So just to give you an overview of the colors that we're using, like this camel brown, a more darker, cool toned brown, and then we're getting into this rust color, which I'm obsessed with. The one in the Friendcation palette is more of a cranberry shade, but it would still work. And then I'm also going to use this dark royal purple. This is a little bit unique to the palette, but any kind of like darker purple that you have will work. This has some shimmer in it, but we're going to be putting it in our crease. So if you have a matte darker purple, that will work, or an even darker brown, that would also work. So, you know, just go along with whatever you have. And then I'm going to be going in with this more green gold, I would say, because this is more of like a bronzy gold over here. So those are the colors that we're going to be working with today. I'm so excited to get into this. I have 4 brushes that I'm going to use, and I'm just going to go over them really quickly with you guys. So the main brush that I'm going to be using is Real Techniques 203 blending brush. I love this blending brush. I think it's so good. The fluffiness is perfect. I love the shape of it. Even the way it's designed and the weight of it is really nice. So I love this for my blending brush. And then for a smaller blending brush, I have the Morphe 506. So you can just see how it's slightly smaller. If you have a Morphe M433, that's pretty similar to the Real Techniques brush over here. Sorry if this is getting confusing, but you can just see how this 506 is just a little bit tinier than both of those brushes. So you're going to be able to get into your crease a little bit more. So these 2 are the main brushes that we're going to be using for the upper part of the lid. And then I also have these 2 E36 brushes. Even though they're the same brush, you can see that they're totally different shapes. This one is a more tapered and pointy end. This one is more of a rounded end. Yet they're the exact same brush from Morphe. So this is what we're working with today. And I like taking my time a lot with this first transition color. This is going to be like the longest part of the look. And we're going to go in with this camely brown color right here. And you always want to pick up just a little bit of eyeshadow onto your brush. Tap it off because you can always add more, but it's really hard to take it away. So I'm holding my brush here at the end, right? Because you can see how loose and floppy it is. When you really want to fluff shadow out and really blend it out, you want to hold it towards the end of the brush. If you're doing your eyeshadow like this is where it can get a little bit muddy and a little bit patchy. So if you're having those issues, pay attention to how you're holding your brush. Now, I'm also going to hold my brush at a slightly upward angle because I'm depositing most of the color. Every time I go in with the crease color, you want to deposit it in the outer corner because that's where we want the darkest point to be. You don't want to start off here in the inner corner. We don't want a lot of darkness in the inner corner. This is obviously an in-depth tutorial, whether you wanted it or not. So in circular motions, I'm starting to deposit this, and then I always like going upwards at this angle. So once I have the majority of the color in the outer corner, I'm then gonna start very lightly, barely touching my skin, go all the way to the inner corner, and I'm just kind of following the natural hollow of my eye. And Nikki does this technique a lot where she just brings the shadow into the bridge of the nose and up into the eyebrow. This is going to make your nose look a little bit smaller. It's also going to make your eye look bigger and open your eye up more. And like I said, I really like having that big open eye look, so that's what I go for. So I'm just literally hitting my brow with the blending brush, not super concerned about it. And then as I get back down here, I'm going to start taking whatever is left and start bringing that up towards the brow, because again, we want the most color deposit, the darkest color here closest to the crease, and a lighter color up here. All right, so I'm going back in with a second dip. So now that I have a pretty good wash of color, if you wanted to keep this eye shape more rounded, you can leave it like that, but I like the lifted eye look. So what I'm going to do is just start to flick this outwards. I'm going to do it more so with the other colors. This is just to get like a base down. Alrighty, so I'm going to go catch up the other eye and then we'll be back for the next step. Alright, so now we are switching over to the smaller 506 brush. I am not going to be picking up any new product at all with this brush. If you see me pick this brush up and use it, there is no additional eyeshadow on it. I'm just using it to blend things out. So now we're going to move on to the darker brown. This is where we get our little bit of cool tone in for this eyeshadow look. So just a deeper, darker brown. Again, picking it up on the brush, tapping off the extra. And now what I'm going to do is hold my brush almost perpendicular, but still at the slightest bit of an angle. And I'm just wiggling back and forth here. Sorry if you hear kids crying outside. But here you can see we're also building up that wing shape here by just going back and forth very lightly. And then you can start to wiggle it down towards your lash line. And then now I'm just kind of like packing this to get an edge. And then I'm going to go back and wiggle. So right now we're focusing more on building the color up than now we're building, oh my God. We're focusing on just really packing the color on and building it up, and we're not worrying about blending it just yet. So I would say I'm really packing this on like right where my iris ends right here, like this whole outer third of my eye is where I'm concentrating this color. And I'm also not bringing this up as high as we blended that first color because of that nice gradient effect. We want to have the lightest color and have it fade down to the darkest of colors. So now what I'm going to do is whatever's left on my brush, I'm starting to bring that over to my crease. And I'm not going to really bring this color past my iris again on this part of my eye. It's just a light wash of whatever happened to be left over. So I'm going to do one more layer and just kind of stamp this into place for right now. And then now just lightly blend it. Does Gen Z even know what it means to screen phone calls? Do younger millennials even know what it means to truly screen a phone call? Let me know. Did any other 90s kids have that as their voicemail and thought they were so cool? Because that was me. Like when I got my cell phone, I didn't get my cell phone until like the 2000s, but when I first got my cell phone in like 2005, I blasted my speaker. My parents were so mad. I like blasted it as loud as it could. So like the phone could pick up that part of the song, and everyone that called me hated it because it was so long until it beeped to leave the voicemail. Because, you know, back then people actually called each other on the phone, and we like to talk on the phone, as crazy as that sounds, because that's my worst nightmare now as an adult. So I just have this little wire swatch that I'm just cleaning my brush off. And now we're gonna go into this nice rusty red color right here. And here it's the same thing, you know, you just wanna slowly build it up and see how things are going. So for this, I'm starting this off more closer to the middle of my lid because this is gonna be kind of the wash of color that goes everywhere. You'll see what I mean in just a second. So again, I'm just kind of going back and forth and working on blending it into that darker brown color. I'm also not going to be afraid to take whatever is left and just wash it across the whole lid. So I'm just building a little bit more, and you could put, one could argue that you could put one could argue that you could put the red down first and then go on top with the brown, but I really wanted to have that darker base on there and have the wash of red on top of it because I want the wash of red almost over the entire look. Now comes the time where we just blend it all together. And then again here, I don't mind that I'm blending into my inner corner, but I'm not expanding out to this part of the inner corner. I'm keeping it very much on the lid part of my inner corner, if that makes sense. It looks a little bit disconnected right now, but it will look better once the look comes together. All eyeshadow looks are a little bit of a hot mess until we get to the end. That's just how it is. So one last little dip just to get a hint more red through here. All right, so that is what we are working with. So far, we are so close to being done. Okay, so I lied. I'm dipping back into that first camely brown color with our original brush. Sorry, that's annoying. And just very lightly, barely touching my skin, because I don't really want to build this up a ton. I just want to lightly bring this color back into the mix. So barely touching my skin. This purple, it looks like a satin. It has some pearls in it, and it's not going to show up shimmery in your crease. That's the thing. Like, it's not a terrible thing to put some kind of pearlized or satin eyeshadow in your crease. It's actually, the pearls are in there to help it blend out nicer and not blend out patchy in your crease. So don't be afraid of colors like this in your crease. If you want to pack it on your lid, of course you can, but I'm just saying don't be afraid of it, because I feel like for the longest time people on YouTube were like, don't put shimmers in the crease. In like early 2010s, that's all we did was put shimmers in our crease. So here I'm just focusing this mostly on the lash line. And I like to have the look of a smoked out lash line. So I just kind of take the edge of the brush and just like move it around between my lashes. So it looks like a little bit thicker of a liner. And I'm just going to lightly bring this into the crease to add some depth. And then again, because it's that dark purple color, it's going to add just a tiny little pop of color. And it doesn't seem like much, but these little hints of color are what is going to set this aside from any old brown smoky eye, if that makes sense. So this, I'm picking up even less product, the least amount of eyeshadow, barely touching it to my skin, and just kind of like dragging over whatever is left. Like this. And then now we can take our brush with no product on it and just give a final, I have dog hair, okay, final little once over. So you can just see how that little bit of eyeshadow just made such a difference. It's super subtle, but definitely noticeable. So now we are done with the matte portion of our upper lid. Okay, so now we're gonna get into this shimmer, and this is where, unfortunately, you're not going to have these kind of shimmers in any palette line around that I'm gonna get to in a minute. But I just want to show you, in case you don't have the Nikki Tutorials palette, which is what I'm pulling out next, I just want to show you what this color in here looks like. I think it's called Glam. I'm just going to show you what this color in here looks like on the lids. So I love using my finger to apply shimmer because you get the best payoff. If you want a super subtle shimmer, use a brush, but I think you get the best results just packing it on with your finger. So normally I tend to go really high up with my shimmer, but I'm going to keep it more concentrated on the lid for this look. And I'm bringing this about halfway across my lid. So whatever is left is kind of what I'm flicking up towards the crease. And then if you ever find that you have too much like glitter up in your crease, or you accidentally put your shimmer too far up into your crease, you could just take a blending brush, like whatever you use for your transition shade, and blend around it, and it will help whack off some of the glitter particles. So just a little tip there. All right, so this looks pretty on its own. It's like a nice, darker, smokier. If you wanted to have some brightness, you could pack this on top, but I'm moving on to my Nikki palette. And from this palette, I'm going to be using the shades Mr. Tutorials, which is like this nice kind of like hazily golden color. And then All In, which is my favorite shimmer. This has like gold, some silver, and I feel like it also has a little bit of green reflect in it. So first, I'm gonna layer this up so you guys can see the difference. First, I'm taking Mr. Tutorials. So you can already see the shine is just so much more intense and it's a little bit brighter than what we used in this palette. I'm going to start packing this on the inner corner. So you can already see the difference between the two shimmers that look pretty similar. If you're interested in this palette, I believe there's still some available on Beauty Bay's website. It's $30, and of course we can sit here and say like, you know, Mila 5 a.m. slasher. I could have used those shades to get a similar look to what I did. And then we have the bright, colorful eyeshadows, which a lot of people aren't into, or they already have them. So I can see that being like, oh, do I really need this palette? For me, the selling point are the shimmers. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 unique shimmers in here. And I would pay $30 just for 8 shimmers. So for me, that makes it worth it. All right, so now I'm going in with All In. This is, it's such a stunning eyeshadow. You barely need any of it because it is super intense and just gorgeous. So now I'm just lightly dotting this on top. So you can just see how much these shimmers elevated this look. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with this eye. It still looks beautiful, but this is just so much more like, oh, I love it. So just to show you the difference between Mr. Tutorials and All In, I'm gonna put Mr. Tutorials on this eye. The formula for the shimmers in here are so unique. Like, I haven't really felt any eyeshadows like this before. So here you can just see the difference. Again, this looks super pretty, but All In just adds that hint of brightness that I'm looking for. And again, I'm just lightly tapping this on my eye instead of swiping it because it'll be like super intense if I swipe. So just nice little taps. So I'm so excited. I love these shimmers. I get so excited every time I use them. And then to finish off the upper lid, I'm just gonna take a brown liquid eyeshadow. I like using a brown with looks like this because it just adds that definition without it being too harsh. So this is the House Labs, and I believe this is in the shade Whiskey. And I personally just like doing a super thin line. I don't really wear falsies that much. I'm not super into false lashes, so I like doing a thinner line so then when I put mascara on, my lashes aren't hidden by my eyeliner, if that makes sense. But I do like the little bit of definition that you get from the liquid eyeliner, and you can see with having that purple on as a messy eyeshadow liner, it just looks so nice and smoky. Quickly, before I move on to my face, we're gonna do the lower lash line. This is gonna be a lot easier, a lot faster, a lot less explaining. So what I'm going to do for my lower lash line, I already have my face primer on, and I do like tap it up under my eyes. I use the Milk Hydro Grip. I'm taking the teeniest amount of concealer. If you have issues with your under eye creasing, you're probably using too much product under your eyes. So what I'm doing, I scrape most of the product off as you saw, and I'm just barely dotting that on my eyes. And if you don't want to set with powder, you can just use your eyeshadow to set the concealer, honestly. So I'm just doing this just again to have a little bit of a base down. This is also going to help it blend well when I put the concealer on again. And I know I've been guilty of doing like the huge blocks of concealers under my eyes in the past, but that's because that's what we just see everyone on YouTube doing, and we just, you know, see them doing it, so then we do it, even though it may not be the best technique for us personally, and it may be a good technique personally for them. So yeah, just light little bit of concealer, and honestly, whatever powder is left over on this brush is what I'm using to set the under eye area, so it's just honestly hardly any powder, if any at all. Now is where we're gonna start getting into our little guys. So I'm taking my rounded E36. How do I want to do this? I'm gonna go back into my 506. It seems scary, but make sure you clean off the product or like really tap your brush off well. And then go back into the camel brown color. And I'm gonna hold this almost up and down, but again at a slight angle. I'm gonna look up and I'm gonna run this back and forth under my eyes. I like a really nice smoked out look. just do less if you don't like it quite as low or blended out as what I'm doing. So now we just have a really nice wash of color under our eyes. So don't let a bigger brush like this intimidate you for your under eye area. Another benefit of doing eyes first before base, if you blend out too much or it gets a little too, you know, it's a little too intense under your eye, you can clean it up with your foundation and concealer. So now moving on to this little guy, in case you forgot, this is the E36. I'm using the more rounded one. And now I'm gonna start building up my lower lash line. I'm dipping into the rust color. And I am just liberally applying this to my lower lash line. Before, I was like dragging this all the way to my inner corner, but now I'm going to stop again right where my iris starts. So I'm not really gonna bring the red all the way to my very inner corner. And then I also like to connect to the upper lid. All right, so now we're gonna build up a little bit more and blend out less. So I'm going back into this dark brown color, same brush. And then again, I'm holding it almost like this because I really do want to get this under my lashes and I'm not trying to blend it out. If I was, I'd hold my brush more like that. So again, holding it up and then just going back and forth against the edges of my lashes. As you can see, that just adds the hint more of definition that I love to have for my lower lash line. Okay, so if you wanted to go ahead and add the purple, you can. I'm just opting out because I don't want it to be too much on the lower lash line. So this is it for the eyes for now. I will be back in just a second when the rest of my face is on. For lips, I am using my Fenty Gloss Bomb in the shade Fussy. I have such thin little lips. I always have to scrape product off and I don't really need that much of it. This is kind of like my lip color, but better. It gives like a little bit of a hint of color to my lips, but the shine on this is unreal and this smells like my childhood, and I'm gonna keep saying that in every video until I figure it out or someone leaves me a comment and figures out what this smells like. But yeah, it just smells so good. It's like not lip smacker though. But yeah, I love this gloss. It is expensive. I think it's $18. If you're looking to try it though, look to see if Sephora is still selling their lip kit on their website. If you want to see the 5 other glosses, it's $30 for 5 glosses, which is, this is $18. That's really not that bad of a deal at all. So you do get some full-size products in there. If you're interested to see what else comes in it, you can check out the website. But if you want to see swatches, I do have a swatch video on my IGTV, on my Instagram, MakeupByMegB everywhere. Be sure to check that out. And lastly, for mascara, I'm going to use my Urban Decay Lash Freak mascara. I love using this on the upper lashes. It can be a little bit on the goopy side though, so be warned about that. I definitely have to scrape product off, but I feel like it does a good job of lengthening, separating, and adding volume to my lashes. All right, we are back for one little tiny update. I'm taking All In on the more tapered E36, and I'm just going to put this into my inner corner just for a nice bright inner corner that ties in. Ivy is almost my go-to highlight, the silver, but because everything is so nice and warm, I don't want to bring an icy silver into this look. So I feel like just having All In, you can even see on bare skin just how, well, not bare skin, but like on a skin base. What am I trying to say here? You can see the eyeshadow just by itself without another eyeshadow under it. How pretty it is, because we did stack like 3 shimmers on the lid. So here in the inner corner, you can just see how truly stunning it is, just all by its little lonesome. How it just catches the light so nicely. I'm obsessed. So here is the finished eye look, and then even with the placement of the shimmers, you can just see the shape here. It does have that lifted look because our dark shadows that are in our crease are coming in at this angle, and it's matching the angle out here. So I'm obsessed with it, and once you put mascara on, the liner really isn't even that noticeable, which I'm fine with. I like just having my lashes, just makes the base of the lashes look a little bit thicker. Of course, if you want to wear false lashes, there's nothing wrong with that. I just prefer to rock my natural ones. And then for the lower lash line, I do use the MAC Giga Blast Extend and Play mascara. I feel like the wand is just like the perfect shape. For the lower lash line, you can get it on there without getting mascara smudges all over your under eye crease. So yeah, what do you guys think of this makeup tutorial? Would you like more fall makeup tutorials? Let me know in the comments. But this is the finished look for today, you guys. I'm obsessed with how this turned out. If you want to see me follow Robert Welch's makeup techniques, be sure to subscribe. That video will be up next week or the week after very soon. I am also doing a Bachelorette Reacts on my channel over the weekends, which, speaking of which, I need to get that video up today. So I am very busy for the rest of the afternoon. But yeah, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys learned something new today. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts were. And yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time to spend with me. Don't forget to subscribe on your way out. Give this a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.